Welcome back to the Getting Results Inc. podcast. Get your slight edge. My name is Coach Gino, and alongside is Super Coach, Coach Ken. Super Coach, how goes it?
Going well. We're staying in the fight, keeping America safe for capitalism, people. Keep doing good work out there.
Beautiful. At least someone out there is proactively doing that. Hopefully there are others.
I think
Rally the forces.
there's a few others. Our clients are out. If you're a client of ours, you're keeping America safe for capitalism.
Good point. All right, everyone. So last podcast, we did the top slight edges to become $1 million plus producer. And man, Super Coach, it was well received and well listened to. So that's really exciting. Getting a lot of great feedback about that podcast. So nice job on that one.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. So building off of that one, what we thought we'd do today, listeners, is the 5 core principles of the $1 million mindset. So, before you can actually really execute those slight edges, you really got to have the right mindset. So we want to get your head wrapped around what is that mindset that'll help get you there along with those slight edges. So let's stack those slight edges together, build the probability of you being successful at whatever you want to, at whatever production level you want to get to. So Super Coach, you ready to attack these one by one?
Yeah, let's see if we can figure this out. Give these slight edges to our people out there.
Yes. So principle number one, core principle number one, identity before activity. So, when you think about that one is you really want to have that mindset of being that $1 million producer before you're actually there, right? Super Coach, what does that mean to you?
Exactly. Identity. Is your identity by design or you by default? Like really quickly, if you ask yourselves, what are the 3 major characteristics of a $1 million producer? And actually, Gino, I think I'm kind of a little tired with the $1 million producer level. Let's go to 2 or 3.
Let's do it.
That's where most of our clients are getting to anyway. And if not 7 million in production. Damn, we're good. All right. Let's talk about like if you were to be a $2.5 to $3 million producer, give me 3 words you would describe yourself. Like out there in the audience, come up with some 3 words. I'll shoot out some 3 words and then we'll figure this out. But if you adapt the identity, you will succeed. This gives me an opportunity. We can tell the story about the cheap ass Florida Cowboys here and this idea about identity. We can ravel about that in a few moments. So let's see. Top characteristics of a multi-million-dollar producer. Number 1, I would submit, is that they're disciplined. They show up to work on time. They meet all of their appointments and they execute on what they plan on doing each day, each week, and each month. So there's a level of
what they need to execute.
It's clear, right? So disciplined, number 1. Number 2, I would also say enrolling. They're very enrolling. What does enrolling mean? It simply means that they believe in their work. They believe what they do is noble and right. And that is communicated through their voice, their actions, their dress, their office. Right? They truly believe what they do is noble and right. And
you live that identity.
Back to identity. Right? It's identity. Is what you do noble and right? Are you disciplined in your approach? And let's see, the 3rd characteristic of a $1 million or multi-million-dollar producer. I don't know, Gina, what would you say?
Well, I'll tell you, I think all about that structure that you just mentioned, right? Like having that design, that clear plan for the day and the week is knowing exactly what your priorities are and executing on them.
Spot on. Executing. Right. And just add a little bit, one more, they actually like their clients.
Well, that's a good one too.
They have a love and a commitment for doing right. And they truly, their clients are very, very, very important to them. So those 3 simple little things, like disciplined, structured, what you do is noble and right, and you thoroughly actually care for your people.
So, to our listeners, ask yourself honestly, how do I see myself? And is that the identity, or is that identity the big enough identity to get me to $1 million, $2 million, $3 million producer? Write down those beliefs. What is that version of you? And start mapping out what that identity needs to be and what you need to go into each day, telling yourself who you are, who you're going to be.
Yeah.
right? And it starts there.
Spot on. And a little trick on how to shift identity. So if you've listened to our stuff, we say the following all of the time. You are the sun, whatever you shall shine upon shall grow, or what you give your attention to, you get more of. So how do you consciously shift your identity? It's actually pretty simple. Is that, okay, you really love your clients. Let's make believe that's one of the ones you're going to focus on. Really, you really love your clients and you go out of your way for your clients. Simple little exercise is to note or to write down each day, each time that you actually went out of your way for your clients. When you did show love to them, literally just write it down on a piece of paper, ideally in your journal. Because what you're doing is you're creating a list of evidence. Okay? You're creating evidence. And the more that you give attention to that evidence, the more that you give yourself permission to believe and take on that particular aspect. Just like if you're disciplined, are you disciplined all of the time? Probably not, but you're disciplined some of the time. But if you take the time, literally taking the time to note those times you were disciplined and you read it over every now and then, you begin to reinforce the belief. And because the mind always looks for evidence of what it believes to be true. And one of the jokes we have with clients, we say the following: brainwashing for fun and profit. A clean brain is a good brain. If you're going to get your brain washed, you might as well do it yourself, because somebody else is, the media is, everybody's trying to wash your brain except for you. Evidence, like evidence. You can provide the evidence of what you want to believe. And the more that you repeat it, the more that you will believe it.
Bam. And belief, it's all about belief. You can believe it, you can do it.
You'll begin to see it.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Principle number 1. That was good. Identity before activity. Let's go to principle number 2. Embrace the long game. And Supercoach, this is really fits in with that whole idea. It takes rice time to cook. And I like to even add to that, it takes risotto a little longer. Let's talk about the long game, because a lot of people think they got to get that immediate result right away when they do something. But that long game is really the key to being successful, isn't it?
Spot on. It is always long game. I guess that would beget a question: is what is your long game? Like, what does it actually look like for you, and what will be required for you? What system structures, people, all of the office space, etc., is required for you to hit that particular number? Because there's an interesting thing becoming from a $1 million producer to a $5 million producer. I mean, that's a 5-fold jump. Not a strong probability. You can't do your business the same way you did it as a $1 million producer, right? You just simply can't. But if you have that vision for $5 million in production, think about, okay, what does my office space need to look like? Do I need multiple assistants, or do I have junior advisors? Do I have licensed people in the mix? What are my strategic partnerships? Which clients do I serve? Which niche am I particularly working? Okay. And if you identify those and you begin to play the long game, because here's a truth, a brutal truth. If you keep doing the right things over a long enough time period, the right outcome is going to happen. And if you keep doing things that are in alignment with the $5 million production goal, that $5 million production goal will eventually come in existence, as long as you keep chopping, if you would. Right? There's a funny story I used to say: if you have a giant oak tree in your backyard and a hatchet, how many swings of the hatchet will it take to knock down the tree? Now, here's the distinction. I have no idea how many swings it will take. But one of the things I do know, if you keep swinging, the tree will be fallen.
Yeah. And by the way, this might seem a little to contrast, but if you're looking at a $2 million production, actually it's not healthy to have your day-to-day identity, going back to identity, tied to production, right? You need to have your identity tied to the activity. The activity will drive the production. So another thing about the long game is that you can't get all worked up about a poor week, a poor month. A production, you got to focus on, did you have a good week or good month of activity?
Spot on. And are you doing the right activities? Okay. Are you doing the right activities, and are you doing those activities consistently? Now, you may be wondering, what are the right activities? There's 1,000 answers, but the really simplest one is, are you around humans? Is there a human to human relationship, contact, touch point somewhere in that month, that week, that day? Now, if you listen to our stuff, once again, everything works. There is no one right way to build your practice, that this is the guaranteed way to grow it, because every way works. I'm sure if you're listening to other podcasts, they are telling you 10,000 different ways to do it. Some people do it through seminars. Some people are working financial planning is the only way to do it. Other people are fee only. Or once again, there are so many ways to create a successful practice. What our game is to help you figure out what your way is that you are most likely to comply with and most likely to repeat over time.
And here's a little tip for you. Look back over the last 90, 120 days. Are you being patient? Are you executing your activities consistently and regularly to keep you on track? Because typically when we become impatient and we get frustrated, we typically will change up what we do. We don't do it long enough to get the result we're looking for. So take a look at that. Are you being consistent? Are you sticking to the plan long enough to gain the result you're looking for?
Spot on. And are you around other humans?
Mm.
It's a fascinating thing. It's all about likability and trust, which is a human game. But a lot of times, advisor gets the butt-itis, meaning that they have roots growing from their butt because they're in their seat in their office all of the time. And they violate the whole tip of the spear concept. And they're like, oh no, I'm a referral only business, which usually means random. That's why you're in the office all the time, kind of hating the business and wondering why you didn't study long enough to become a dentist.
Absolutely.
Because dentists make real money.
That's right. All right, Super Coach, that was principle number 2. Principle number 3 is actually one of our coaching agreements too. It's take responsibility for your outcomes, right? Own it. This is the mindset that says, hey, everything in my business is my responsibility. Everything that I do, whether it's good, not so good, it's all, I own it. I own the results, whether I have them or not. We own it.
Spot on. If you go back to one of our early podcasts where I probably waxed eloquently that it's all your fault. Whatever's going on, it's your fault. So you can't be a whiny bitch. It's always your fault. Because if it's not your fault, then whose is it? Then who's going to change things? Right? You got to own those outcomes. This is not a nice conversation. It's much easier to be a victim of things. Victim of the market, victim of your firm, victim of your staff. It's just easier. It just doesn't produce the same results. It's kind of funny. I remember years ago, I was having a conversation with one of my clients about their calendar and booking appointments, and he's complaining that he was overwhelmed, and he was just bitching about that. Overwhelmed, I can't handle it. And then I asked, well, who controls your calendar? And he's like, well, my assistant does. She's doing this to me. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that you worked for your assistant. Maybe you should put her on the phone. Let me coach her. And he was a little taken aback by that. He's like, oh, no. I don't work for her. She works for me. And I said, oh, well, then act that way. Set the standards, right? Set the standards, enforce the standards.
And for those of you listening, think of one area of your business right now where results aren't where they where you want them to be. Be honest, right? What's within your power to change that? Write down that action. Take this week and exercise ownership of it. That's a good starting point. Own it. Do something about it. Take responsibility.
Right. Spot on. And whatever it is your fault anyway. So figure it out.
There's no doubt. All right. That was principle number 3. Let's go to principle number 4. This is an interesting. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. So, this big fear thing, and we talk about operating systems, but that's another podcast. You can check that out. But, sometimes things aren't all comfortable, Super Coach, and maybe we fear failure, whatever it might be. So, what are your thoughts about this?
What was the old saying about fear? False expectations appearing real. I've had different versions of this conversation a few times this week. Fear, if we really cut the root of it, where does fear exist? Does fear exist outside of the skull? But does fear exist outside of your head? Does fear exist outside of anybody's head? Right? It's a fascinating thing. Neither does suffering or discontentedness or boredom. or envy. Those things do not exist in nature, they exist in our skulls. So I think there's, as G.I. Joe would say, knowing is half the battle. So when you're experiencing fear, which is natural, we all do, see it for what it actually is. And then always another fun thing to do, if you have the time and you have the space, is to explore it. What is it that you actually fear? And then a fun thing to do is always worst case scenario. Like, all right, figure out the absolute worst case scenario of whatever that thing is that you fear. And then simply ask yourself, can you handle it? I mean, are you going to be,
The worst thing that could happen.
what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? And could you handle that particular outcome?
That's a simple thing too, right? Like that's anyone can do that.
Right. But often fear can be hidden in being busy, or you get the I don't wannas, I don't feel like it, I don't wanna, don't you know who I am? And once again, there's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. Just that when you're aware of it, it begins to change it, right? Awareness, right? Awareness is the key to all things, because that allows your brains to begin to figure this stuff out, or your intellect to begin to figure
You can
things
do
out.
something about it. Take action.
Correct. Take action.
All right. So from this, think about this. What's the one action in your business that you've been avoiding, or for fear or discomfort, whatever it might be? Name it, write it down. Now ask you, what's actually on the other side of that action? What's the worst thing that could happen? I always like to try to select the worst possible scenario, then think about it and go, could this really happen? Is this really what's the chances that this could happen to me? And
I was
9
having a
times,
conversation with a client yesterday, and their performance was not. They were worried about performance and staff not following up and all this stuff. And he's like, "My God, Ken, if we don't fix this stuff up, our clients are going to leave." And he's in an agitated state. And I asked him, "Are all of your clients going to leave?" And I said, "You're going to go to zero. All right, this is going to cause your business to go to zero." And the answer, and then it got him back into a more centered state. He's like, all right, no, it's not going to go to zero. So if it's not going to go to zero, that relieves a lot of stress. Like, a lot of times, all of us put ourselves under unneeded amounts of stress because we're under the illusion that stress makes us perform better. Okay, that you're on the deadline, you're on the edge, you're on point. It gets a much deeper question: does stress help you perform better? Right? If a bear busted through my front door here, okay, now what would I really need to do if a bear jumped into my house, black bear? I would need to run,
fast as you can.
run, or fight the bear. See, stress gets your body ready to fight or run, not to think. Right? It's not thinking. Like, the bear comes through the wall, thinking is not going to necessarily help me, right? Running or fighting will help me, if you will. But most of us deal with these levels of stress, our self-imposed levels of stress, that we're under the illusion that that's going to help performance. The strange thing about stress and intelligence are inversely related. So the greater the stress you're under, the dumber you become, because it's supposed to be that way, right? You're wired to be that way. You don't need brains to fight a bear. I'm sure someone's arguing with me out there. Write it in the comments.
Yeah.
Stress.
You got to outthink the bear.
Yeah, outthink them. Well, you do, or you lock the door bear, I think. So stress of self-imposed goals, targets, etc., or even to hit $5 million or $2 million or $3 million in production. That stress is not necessarily helpful.
Yep. Agreed. Let's go to principle number 5. Invest in your vision daily. And actually, you could almost say that it should start with vision, right? Like, what's the vision that you see yourself in the future, whether it's 3 years, 5 years down the line, doing the activity that you want to do, doing the business you're doing. What does it look like? What do you want to build? What are you designing for the future? Right. And we talk about vision a lot, and especially around the 5 F's, right? Family, friends, finance, fitness, and fun. What does it look like in your world? Why are you doing what you're doing? And Supercoach, I think having a vision not only tells you what you want to focus in on, put your attention on, but it also tells you what not to do and stay away from, and not commit to something that doesn't serve your vision.
Spot on. The hard truth, it's easy to get distracted, right? It's easy to get caught up in the bright and shiny. It's easy to get caught up in things going sideways, or computers crashing, or markets going sideways, or bombs, blowing something up. It's really easy to get caught up in all of that stuff. The reason why we remind people to get back to your vision is just to simply help you remember what needs to be remembered. Okay, what you give attention to, you will get more of. Just like the more attention you give to conflict somewhere in the world, the more you get to learn about it. Nothing wrong with that, but is that truly advancing your business and your vision?
And, we talk about living and having a business by design, not by default. I think a vision is the clear winner to make sure that you're designing exactly how you want it to go. And like you like to say, there's a reason why there's a target. That's how you hone your aim. And having a vision allows you to hone your aim along the path of getting to where you want to get to.
Spot on. Spot on. Another helpful thing too with visions, or you're going after big numbers in production, etc. It's always helpful to be a little bit clear on your why. Like, why are you doing it, or the for what? Like, what's the for what behind it, if there is one? And because if your for what is clear, or if your target is clear, the easier it is to hit it. If your target is non-existent or foggy, the harder it becomes to hit it. So that could be helpful. I worked with a client the other day on setting up some of his goals for his business, and he was very clear on what the numbers were. And then I just simply asked him, okay, what will those numbers provide for you? And make it visual. Create a visual representation of what that number does for you. And one of those numbers was a really nice lake house, like a really, really nice lake house that he put up on his wall. I'm sure people out there have heard of vision boards, visualizing, etc. Okay, and not to be woo-woo, but why? Well, we think in pictures. It's much easier to absorb a picture than to absorb words. Like literally, I can look outside right now and see a palm tree. If I try to describe that palm tree to you, it's going to take me maybe 1,000 to 2,000 words if I get all the details of a fan-tailed natural palm explained to you. You would never actually see what I'm seeing through my writing unless I took a picture of it. So once again, pictures speak louder than words. That's the saying.
Yeah. But now I would also just add them together, and now you got some real, you're covering yourself either way.
Correct. Yeah, you got a vision with words, or you're clear on where you're going.
Very clear.
Once again, not rocket science. If you're clear on where you're going, it's easier to get there. If you don't know where you're going, it's harder to get there.
No doubt. That's right.
Or if you're not clear on where you're going, it's even harder. Okay, where are you going on vacation? I don't know. When are you going? It's going to be a tough vacation. But if, hey, going to Disneyland, oh, when are you going? Tomorrow. All right, you can get to Disneyland tomorrow, no matter where you are in the world. More than likely, you can get there tomorrow, unless you're in China or Iran. You're definitely not getting there if you're in Iran.
Yes. So an action step for you. Take 10, 15 minutes today before you do anything else. Write down your vision for your business, your life, 3 years out from now. Make it specific. Make it vivid, to Supercoach's point. If you can get visuals, cut them out of magazines, download them off the internet, whatever. Make it big enough to excite you and honest enough to believe, and then connect with that vision regularly. See what a lot of people do with their, Super, I always love the guys that say, oh, I got to do my business plan in January. And then I always ask, well, where does it go when you're done?
In a drawer.
It usually goes in a drawer or in a file somewhere and never to be looked at again. A vision is something you want to reconnect with on a regular basis to keep it alive, so that, when you're having that rough day or things aren't going so well, you come back to the vision, and that vision should help you get back on track and inject some more energy into your day, for sure.
Spot on. And if you're having troubles with these things, or you've never created a vision before, or there's just struggle, or it's not clear for you, that's why we run our C programs, or the Slight Edge Accelerator. We help you get a lot of clarity in your 3 to 5 year, your 1 year, your 90-day vision. And it's a pretty cool technology as well as community to help accelerate you towards your path or towards your outcome.
Super Coach, those are the 5 principles of the $1 Million Mindset. Let's kind of run through them real quick. And if you want to add anything to it that we might have missed, let's add them. So principle number 1 was identity before activity. And I think we hit that pretty good. But any additional words on that one, Super Coach?
We can talk about self-concept and the cheap-ass Florida Cowboys.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. All right.
Let's do it. Why not?
Okay, so
let's have a podcast. We get to do what we want.
So we do what we want. So let me tell you a story about cheap-ass Florida cowboys. So some of you, if you do not live in the state of Florida, may not realize something. So I obviously live here. I've had the opportunity to fly across the state, drive across the state in a motorhome in cars multiple times, and I even have boated across the entire state of Florida. So I know what the middle of Florida looks like. If you haven't been to Florida, you would expect the middle of Florida to be a jungle, be jungly, big snakes, alligators, etc. So much to my dismay, when I was traveling through Florida, what you see are giant Texas longhorn steer. It's cows, or moo cows, or steer cows, whatever you call them. Florida is the number 2 beef producing state in the union. If you didn't know that, now you do. But if you've been to Texas, right, they don't have cheap cowboys, because in Texas they have real barbed wire. It's at least 3 to 4 strands that holds these giant 1,200 pound, 2,000 pound animals in the pen. But here, Florida, cheap ass cowboys only put up 1 strand of barbed wire. Now, if you've ever seen a steer, they are ungodly big. And you would think the steer could just lean up against the barbed wire and escape. He's out of there. But they don't. Why? Well, because it hurts a little bit. It hurts a little bit. So that 1 strand, right, keeps them penned in. Now, the reason why I tell this story, think about this giant animal penned in by 1 strand of barbed wire. So what our analogy here is, that's much like your own self-concept. You cannot expand beyond your self-concept. You cannot expand bigger than you believe you can be, much like you can't be bigger than your money, if you will. So that 1 strand, that self-concept, you can never expand beyond your self-concept, or you can never expand beyond who you believe yourself to be. So first is the belief. First is the identity, right, before the action, right? I can be, or I am that $1 million producer. Here are some of those characteristics. I'm disciplined. I'm structured. I truly do what I do is noble and right. I love my clients. And not only have I practiced that every day, I'm keeping record of how I've gone out of my way for my clients, and how what I do is noble and right, and how I'm sticking to my structures, and how I'm being disciplined. And over time, that builds up this identity, or this builds up this character and your self-concept of you, so that you then earn the right to be $1 million producer and above.
Love that story, Super Coach. Love it.
Cheap ass cowboys.
All right. So principle number 1 laid down right there for you.
There it is.
Principle number 2, embrace the long game. Like we said, takes rice time to cook, right? You got to be committed to the outcome, unattached to the result. Just keep swinging the hammer, keep doing the activity, and the results will come. Stay consistent. Anything else to add to that, Super Coach?
I think people always worry about what's the right activity. And real simple, if we cut to the core, human to human, are you tracking or keeping count, or are you actively in the mix? Are you around the right kind of people? Now, that could mean you're calling them, you're sending letters, you're sending emails and all that stuff. But once again, it roots back to human to human. Are you in the presence of humans that fit your ideal client profile on a consistent basis?
Principle number 3, we talked about taking responsibility for all your outcomes. Take ownership. Own it. You're the only one responsible, not they, them. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? It's why didn't I do that if it's something you didn't do? But also if it's something you did do, hey, I did that. Principle number 4, fear is a signal, not a stop sign. And as Super Coach mentioned earlier, we know what fear stands for, right? So get out of your mind and get into action.
Spot on.
Anything else?
In the famous words of Coach Pete did a presentation up for Cornell, I believe, and he was talking to the crowd, and he said, when you get to a red light means stop. When we feel fear, we want to stop. But let me change something for you. Red means go. Red means green, right? If you feel fear, you go. Go. It's not a stop. It's a go. So think of that as a great signal. If there's fear, it's not a stop. It's a go. Don't drive that way. Use that as a mental sort of game. Is what is it that you fear? And often advisors, a lot of times what they fear they're around somebody who's very, very successful, right? They're around someone who's a multi-millionaire or whatever that is, and they get weird, or they feel weird at some level, right? So you get that little stop sign, be cautious. Okay, turn that stop sign upside down, make it green and go. So that's that little indicator. You do belong. You can be of service. What you do is noble and right. You do know something that that other individual doesn't. And you never want to take away someone's ability to think or to choose. So if you decide not to approach someone, that means you're deciding you're thinking for them instead of allowing them to make their own choice. Right? We're about keeping America safe for capitalism, and capitalism is based on choosing, allowing people, individuals, to make their own choices.
Really good. Don't decide for other people. Don't choose for them. Let them do it. Big boys and girls, we're all dealing with adults here. All right, principle number 5, invest in your vision daily. Like we said, feed that vision every morning. Come up with your vision. Have a path. Have a roadmap of where you're going, why you want to get there, how are you going to get there. Be that person.
Yeah, remember what needs to be remembered. And your vision doesn't have to be carved in stone. Actually, in fact, it's not carved in stone. You give yourself the liberty to change it, to adjust it, because in time, you evolve, you change. And there's nothing wrong with adjusting a vision. The principle here is very simple, is to help you remember what needs to be remembered, because it's really easy to get distracted, to forget, because nothing of value is easy. Right? Here's a news flash for all of you out there. It is not easy to make a lot of money. It is not easy to be $1 million producer. Guess what? It's even harder to be a $5 million producer. This stuff is not easy, but it's not supposed to be. Right? And I hear this a lot of times. Things aren't moving as fast as I want. Things should be moving faster. I should be taking more ground. Things should be happening faster. No, they shouldn't. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. I wish it did. It doesn't.
Don't we all?
Or it can work that way. It's just that's when we're starting to do some dangerous things, whether that's drugs, illegal activity. I mean, there are ways to cheat, but we know what happens when you cheat. There are no shortcuts.
Yeah. Now you have the 5 principles to the $1 million plus mindset. So one mindset. And here's the thing you want to take away from today. You don't have to be perfect with this. It's not about having everything figured out. It's about making that decision every day to think and act like the advisor you want to become. Who do you want to be, right? Not the advisor you've been, because obviously the advisor you've been's gotten you to here, but who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? Let's hone in on that. Let's focus on that every day. Get better every day. Slight edges, as we like to say.
Slight edges lead to exponential rates of return. Technically, it's the only way. It is a slight edge because no one on the planet is 10 times smarter than you. But there are people who make 10 times the amount of money. It gets this fascinating question. Why is that? They figured out what their slight edges are, or multiple slight edges, and they're simply implementing.
Yep. And Supercoach, you mentioned something earlier about our Slight Edge Accelerator program. We have one May 26th and 27th in Kansas City. If you're interested, go to our website, gettingresultsinc.com. Go to our events, and we're still open, so check it out. Love to have you. And, the 5 principles of the $1 Million Mindset, we discuss all those during our program, and then we live it for 120 days. So join us if you can, because it'll be well worth your time and investment.
No doubt. No doubt.
Okay. Well, listen, if you've enjoyed today's episode, if we challenged you, encouraged you, or gave you a new lens on your business, we'd love you to share it with other advisors, even just one person. Share it. Tell them about our podcast, where it can be found on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, at gettingresultsinc.com. Check out all our other episodes. By the way, this is episode 70. There's a lot. We have a whole collection of great podcasts for you to help really hone your edges and hopefully learn more about what we're doing. And, we'd love you to become a client of ours, because we know we can take you to that next level. So, Supercoach, anything else to add before we close out?
As you said it, slight edges lead to exponential rates of return. Be responsible for your outcomes. If you can't figure something out, ask. That's what coaches do. We've been around since 2002, and we know what we're doing.
Right on. Right on.
Spot on. America.
Awesome. Until our next episode, everyone, be great.